Ladies, it is a tough, tough position. When you're a believer, you're following Christ with your whole heart, and your husband is not. Maybe he's a kind of lukewarm believer. Maybe at some point he accepted Jesus as Lord, but he's definitely not following him now. Or maybe he never really has been a follower. Maybe you came to Christ after you guys got married, and now you guys are kind of pulling in different directions. Distressing, isn't it? And your heart is just so desperate for your husband to come into submission to Christ and follow Christ as Lord. What to do, right? Well, a couple thoughts for you. First, make sure that you are a shining light for Jesus. In other words, put on Christ's character. Ask God to fill you with the Holy Spirit every day so that you reflect Christ to your husband, so that you have something that's attractive to him, that he would want to follow this God that you serve, right? But a couple other thoughts for you. Pray fervently. I like to call it praying ferociously for your husband. Day after day after day after month after year after even decade. I know one woman, a friend of mine, who prayed for 15 years before her husband finally came to Christ, but he did. I was just talking to another woman the other day. 18 years of praying, but yes, her husband finally came to Christ. So don't give up in praying. In fact, this reminds me of the parable of the persistent widow in Luke 18. Jesus tells this parable in order that we would pray and not give up. Maybe that's inspiration for you. But I also want to tell you how to pray strategically for your husband. There is a verse that I stumbled upon in Ezekiel 36. It's Ezekiel 36, verses 26 and 27. And when I read this, my heart leapt with joy, because it reminded me that God can change a person's heart. And that's exactly what needs to happen with your husband. God needs to change his heart. You and I, we can't change our husband's hearts. As much as we would try to manipulate and control and beg and plead, we can't change our husband's heart, but God can. Listen to what God says in Ezekiel 36, starting in verse 26. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my spirit in you so that you follow my decrees. Ooh, that's good news, isn't it? That God can change your husband's heart. So it's your job to pray. Insert your husband's name in that verse in Ezekiel 36 and start praying that day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade if you need to. And here's the way I like to look at it. Because we know this is in line with God's will that your husband would come to Christ, it isn't a matter of if God is going to answer this prayer, it's just a matter of when.